"Get your trash out of my house, you pathetic leech! Don't touch the Hermes throw!" The scream tore through the foyer of the penthouse, echoing off the marble floors. Eden froze, her hand hovering over a cardboard box containing the last 3 years of her life. "Mila, please," Eden whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't speak to her." A deep, cold voice cut in. Leo Grant stepped out of the shadows, wrapping a protective arm around the woman in the shimmering red dress. He looked at Eden not with anger, but with the boredom one reserves for a stain on a rug. "You heard my wife. You have 5 minutes, Eden, or security drags you out." The rain in Seattle didn't wash things clean, it just made the grime slicker. Standing on the sidewalk outside the glass and steel monolith of the Grant Tower, Eden Laurent felt the water seeping through her thin trench coat, chilling her to the marrow. At her feet sat 2 soggy cardboard boxes. That was it. That was the sum total of her marriage to Leo Grant. She looked up. On the 45th floor, the lights were blazing warm and golden. She could imagine them up there. Leo holding a crystal tumbler of scotch, and Mila Ford, the 23-year-old Instagram model who had transitioned from brand ambassador for Leo's tech firm to Mrs. Grant, in a timeline that overlapped Eden's marriage by 6 humiliating months. A black limousine pulled up to the curb, splashing muddy water onto Eden's ankles. The window rolled down, revealing the sharp, avian features of Eliza Vaughn, Leo's mother. "Still loitering?" Eliza asked, her voice dry as parchment. She didn't offer a ride. She didn't offer an umbrella. She simply inspected Eden through her designer frames. "I told Leo years ago you were too fragile for this family. You lack the killer instinct necessary for the Grant legacy." "I loved him, Eliza," Eden said, her voice hoarse. "I helped him build the chaotic mess of a startup into what it is today. I wrote the code for the logistics algorithm." Eliza laughed, a harsh barking sound. "You typed what he dictated. Don't confuse secretarial work with genius, dear. Leo is the visionary. You were the placeholder. Mila looks the part on a magazine cover. You look like a librarian who lost her library card." The window rolled up. The car purred away, disappearing into the grey mist. Eden sat on the curb, the damp cold settling into her bones. She checked her bank account on her cracked phone screen. $1,200. The prenuptial agreement she had signed, blinded by love and Leo's charm, had left her with a pittance. He had hidden assets, funneled money into offshore accounts, and claimed bankruptcy on personal holding companies just before the filing. He had outmaneuvered her legally, financially, and emotionally. She was 32 years old. She had no job, having quit her position as a senior analyst at a rival firm to support Leo's vision 3 years ago. She had no home, and the man she had worshipped had just threatened to have security throw her out like expired produce. A profound sense of numbness took over. It wasn't sadness anymore. The tears had run dry weeks ago during the court proceedings. It was a hollow, echoing silence in her chest. She dragged her boxes to the bus stop. She found a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city, a place where the neon sign buzzed with the sound of a dying insect. Inside the room, which smelled of stale smoke and bleach, Eden unpacked. A photo frame fell out. It was her and Leo on their honeymoon in Bali. He looked adoringly at her. Lies, she thought. All of it. She flipped the photo over. Tucked into the backing was an old, yellowed business card she had found in her late mother's belongings years ago, but never understood. It simply read, "Hail Dynamics, 100 Wall Street. Ask for Grayson." Her mother had been a secretive woman, paranoid about money and corporate greed. She had died penniless, warning Eden to never trust men in suits. Eden had ignored her, marrying Leo. Look where that got her. Eden stared at the card. Hail Dynamics was a myth, a private equity firm so exclusive and powerful it didn't have a website, only a reputation for swallowing conglomerates whole. Why did her mother have this? The television in the corner flickered to a celebrity news channel. The headline flashed, "Leo Grant unveils new AI logistics platform. The future is now." On screen, Leo was beaming, Mila hanging on his arm, flashing a diamond the size of a quail egg. "This technology," Leo told the reporters, "was a solo labor of love. It took sleepless nights, just me and the code." Eden's hand clenched into a fist. The code she had fixed when his logic loops failed, the architecture she had designed on napkins while he slept off hangovers. He was erasing her completely. Something in Eden snapped. The fragile woman Eliza mocked died in that motel room. The numbness in her chest began to heat up, turning into a cold, hard slag of iron. She picked up the yellowed card. She would go to New York. She would find this Grayson, and if that failed, she would find another way, but she would not fade away. She would return, and she would burn the Grant legacy to the ground. 3 weeks later, Eden stood in the lobby of 100 Wall Street. She had sold her engagement ring, a modest thing compared to Mila's rock, to afford the flight and a decent suit. She looked sharp, severe, her dark hair pulled back in a tight chignon. Getting into Hale Dynamics was impossible. The security desk turned her away 3 times. But Eden was patient. She watched the building patterns. She noticed that at 6 a.m. a service elevator was used for flower deliveries. On the 4th morning, carrying a clipboard she'd stolen from a FedEx truck, she walked in with a confidence she didn't feel, bypassed the guard by pretending to be on a call with Mr. Hale's assistant, and slipped into the elevator. The penthouse floor was silent. It didn't look like an office. It looked like a museum. Dark mahogany, original oil paintings, the smell of old leather and pipe tobacco. "You're not the florist," a voice rumbled. Eden turned. Sitting in a wing-back chair by the window, silhouetted against the rising sun over the East River, was an older man. He was in a wheelchair, a blanket over his legs, but his shoulders were broad and his eyes, steel grey, were terrifyingly sharp. "And you're not security," Eden parried, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I own the building. I can be whoever I want," the man said. "I am Grayson Hale. You have 10 seconds to explain why I shouldn't have you arrested for trespassing before I finish my tea." Eden walked forward, pulling the yellowed card from her pocket. She placed it on the small table beside him. "My mother was Sarah Laurent. She told me if I was ever at the end of the line, to come here." Grayson Hale froze. The teacup in his hand didn't rattle, but his knuckles turned white. He looked at the card, then up at Eden. He studied her face, the arch of her brow, the shape of her jaw. "Sarah," he whispered, the name sounding foreign on his tongue. She is dead? 5 years ago. Cancer." Grayson closed his eyes, a look of profound pain crossing his stoic features. "She ran away 30 years ago. She wanted nothing to do with the blood money, as she called it." He opened his eyes, piercing Eden. "I am your great-uncle, Eden. Your grandfather was my brother. We built this empire together, and your mother was the sole heir to his share. When she vanished, that share sat in a trust, accumulating." Eden blinked, the room spinning slightly. "A trust? Billions?" Grayson said casually, as if discussing the weather. "You are not just a trespasser, Miss Laurent. You are a majority shareholder." Eden sank onto the sofa opposite him. Billions. She had been eating instant noodles for 3 weeks. She had been humiliated by a man worth a fraction of that. "Why didn't you find us?" she asked. Sarah was good at hiding, and I respected her wish to be left alone. I assumed she wanted her child to have a normal life. He leaned forward, inspecting her cheap suit, the scuff marks on her heels. "But it seems normal hasn't been kind to you. Who did this?" "Did what?" "The look in your eyes," Grayson said softly. "That is the look of a wolf that has been kicked by a mule. It is a look of vengeance. Who put it there?" "Leo Grant," Eden said, the name tasting like ash. "My ex-husband. He stole my work, stole my dignity, and left me with nothing. Grayson nodded slowly. He reached for a tablet on the table. Leo Grant, CEO of Grant Tech, recently married Myla Ford, stock up 12% on rumors of a new AI logistics platform. My platform, Eden corrected. Grayson smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a shark scenting blood in the water. Well then, it seems we have work to do. But you are not ready, Eden. You have the bloodline, but you lack the teeth. You walked in here shivering. If you want to take down a man like Grant, you cannot just be rich. You must be terrifying. Teach me, Eden said. I will give you a job, Grayson countered, not as an heir. No one can know who you are yet. If the market knows the lost heir has returned, the sharks will circle. You will enter as an associate. You will work under Holden York, my director of acquisitions. He is brilliant, ruthless, and entirely unpleasant. If you survive him for 6 months, I will give you the keys to your inheritance. And if I don't? Then you take a check for $5 million and go live a quiet life in Vermont. Walk away from the vengeance. Eden stood up. She walked to the window, looking out at the city that ate the weak. She thought of Eliza Vaughan's laugh. She thought of Myla's scream. I don't want Vermont, Eden said. I want his head. Holden York was beautiful in the way a switchblade was beautiful. Sharp, dangerous, and cold. He was 35, always dressed in bespoke Savile Row suits, with eyes the color of dark espresso that missed nothing. He hated Eden immediately. Nepotism hire, Holden muttered on her first day, tossing a stack of files onto her desk. I don't care who your uncle is or what sad story you told him. This is Hale Dynamics. We eat the weak. Organize the due diligence for the Kincaid merger. You have until 6 a.m. It's 8 p.m., Eden pointed out. Tick-tock, Ms. Laurent. Eden didn't sleep. She drank 4 cups of terrible office coffee and read through 4,000 pages of legal documents. She found an irregularity in the Kincaid environmental reports, a buried liability regarding groundwater contamination that would have cost Hale Dynamics millions. When she slapped the report on Holden's desk at 5:55 a.m., he looked at it, then at her red-rimmed eyes. Adequate, was all he said. But he stopped calling her the nepotism hire. Over the next 6 months, Eden ceased to be Eden. Grayson hired tutors, voice coaches to lower her register, stylists to change her silhouette from soft curves to sharp angles, language experts to teach her Mandarin and French. But the real education came from Holden. He taught her how to read a balance sheet like a map of warfare. He taught her that a smile was a weapon, silence was a shield, and information was the only currency that mattered. You're too emotional, Holden criticized one night over takeout in the boardroom. They were analyzing a hostile takeover of a shipping conglomerate. You're thinking about the workers. Stop it. Look at the numbers. If we don't trim the fat, the whole body dies. Is that cruel? Yes. Is it necessary? Also, yes. Leo used to say things like that, Eden murmured, staring at the rain against the window. Holden paused, his chopsticks halfway to his mouth. Leo Grant is a hack. He plays at being a tycoon. He mimics strength because he's insecure. Real power isn't loud, Eden. Real power is gravity. You don't have to shout when you're the planet everything else orbits. He looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in months. Her hair was cut into a sharp, asymmetrical bob. She wore a tailored black jumpsuit that cost more than her old car. You're ready, Holden said quietly. For what? To hunt. The test came a week later. A mid-sized tech supplier, Vanguard Chips, was struggling. Leo Grant relied on Vanguard for 80% of his hardware. If Vanguard went under or was bought by a competitor, Grant Tech's supply chain would snap. Grayson gave the green light, Holden said, sliding a dossier across the table. We acquire Vanguard, we squeeze the supply, but we need a face for the deal. I can't go. Leo knows me. He knows hail dynamics. If he sees us coming, he'll leverage his debt to counterbid. We need a shell company, Eden said, her mind racing. A ghost firm. Exactly. And we need a CEO for that ghost firm. Someone no one knows. Eden smiled. It was a terrifying expression. I'll do it. You? Holden raised an eyebrow. You're still an associate. I know the product, Eden said, tapping the file. I know the supplier, and I know the buyer. Leo won't recognize me, not like this. She gestured to herself. She was right. The mousy, terrified housewife in floral prints was gone. Sitting there was a woman made of steel and ice. She had adopted the name Elena Vane. Do it, Holden said. But be careful. Leo is a narcissist, but he's not an idiot. He is when it comes to women, Eden replied. The acquisition of Vanguard chips happened silently. A shell company, Orchid Holdings, bought the controlling stake for $40 million. 2 days later, Leo Grant received a notification that his supply contract was under review. He demanded a meeting with the new owner. The meeting was set at the Plaza Hotel in the Oak Room. Eden arrived 15 minutes late. It was a power move Holden had taught her. When she walked in, wearing a white structured blazer and blood-red lipstick, heads turned. Leo was sitting at a corner table, checking his watch, clearly annoyed. He didn't look up until she pulled out the chair. "Miss Vane, you're late. I don't appreciate—" He stopped. He looked at her face. Recognition flickered in his eyes, then died. It was impossible. His ex-wife was a broken thing living in a motel. This woman radiated power. This woman looked at him with the cool detachment of an executioner. "Mr. Grant," Eden said, her voice an octave lower than he would remember, smooth and cultured. "I'm Elena Vane, CEO of Orchid Holdings. We have a problem with your payment terms. We're doubling the price of the chips." Leo laughed, his charm switching on automatically. "Elena, surely we can discuss this over dinner. Doubling is absurd." "The market is volatile," Eden said, signaling the waiter for a sparkling water. "And I don't mix business with dinner. You have 48 hours to agree to the new terms, or we sell your allocation to your competitor." "You remind me of someone," Leo said, narrowing his eyes, leaning in close. The smell of his cologne, sandalwood and arrogance hit her. It used to make her weak in the knees. Now it just made her nauseous. "I have one of those faces," Eden said, unblinking. "Tick-tock, Mr. Grant." She stood up and walked away, leaving him stunned at the table. As she exited the hotel, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Holden. "Phase 1 complete. Did he suspect?" Eden typed back. He saw what he wanted to see. A stranger. She got into the town car waiting for her. Now, she thought, let's take everything else. The war had begun. The glass facade of Grant Tech gleamed under the midday Seattle sun, a monument to Leo Grant's ego. For Eden, stepping out of the town car and onto the pavement she had walked 1,000 times before, it felt like stepping into a recurring nightmare. But this time, she wasn't the supportive wife holding a bag lunch. She was Elena Vane, the predator at the gate. "Remember," Holden's voice came through the tiny earpiece hidden beneath her sleek bob. "You are not walking into your husband's office. You are walking into a distressed asset. Detach." "I'm fine, Holden," she murmured, adjusting the lapel of her charcoal Armani blazer. Leo was waiting in the lobby, surrounded by a phalanx of nervous assistants. When he saw her, his face brightened with that practiced, dazzling smile, the one that had once made Eden feel like the only woman in the world. Now it just looked like a desperate sales pitch. "Elena, so glad you accepted the invitation to tour the facility," Leo said, extending a hand. "I wanted to show you personally why Orchid Holdings should invest in the long term, not just squeeze us on chip prices." Eden took his hand. His palm was damp. "He's nervous," she realized. "The chip hike is bleeding him faster than I thought." "Impress me, Leo," she said coolly. My board is suggesting we cut ties entirely and sell to Kincaid. Give me a reason to fight for you." The tour was an exercise in theatrics. Leo walked her through the server rooms, spouting buzzwords about quantum-ready architecture and neural net logistics. It was gibberish. Eden knew it was gibberish because she had written the actual back-end code 3 years ago. They arrived at the main operations floor. A massive screen displayed the global logistics map, ships, trucks, and drones moving in real time. "This," Leo said, gesturing grandly, "is the heartbeat of the future. The algorithm predicts supply chain disruptions before they happen. It's flawless." Eden stepped closer to the console. She spotted a young engineer typing frantically at a terminal, sweat beading on his forehead. She recognized the error code flashing on his screen. It was a memory leak she had warned Leo about years ago, a fundamental flaw in the way the system handled high-volume data packets. He had ignored her then, claiming it was too expensive to rewrite. "Is it flawless?" Eden asked, her voice carrying across the silent room. She pointed a manicured finger at the struggling engineer. "Then why is your Tier 3 node experiencing a 400 millisecond latency spike? If that propagates during peak shipping season, you'll lose $20 million an hour." The room went deathly silent. Leo blinked, his smile faltering. That's just a display glitch, minor calibration." "It's a kernel panic waiting to happen," Eden said, turning to face him. "You're running legacy code on new hardware, aren't you? You didn't update the core architecture when you scaled up." Leo stared at her, a mixture of shock and suspicion clouding his eyes. "How could you possibly know that? That's proprietary internal data." "I know tech, Leo," she lied smoothly. "And I know when a CEO is trying to sell me a Ferrari with a lawnmower engine. You need capital to rewrite the core, don't you? That's why you're desperate for my chips. You can't afford the downtime to switch suppliers." Before Leo could invent another lie, the double doors swung open. Myla Ford Grant sauntered in. She was wearing a pink tracksuit that probably cost more than a mid-sized sedan, carrying a toy poodle. "Leo, babe," Myla whined, ignoring the room full of staff. "You said we were going to lunch at Canlis at 1. It's 1:15. Leo's jaw tightened. "Mila, I'm in a meeting. This is Ms. Vane." Mila looked Eden up and down, her eyes narrowing. She sensed a threat, though she couldn't identify why. "Oh, the chip lady. You don't look like a tech person." "And you don't look like a board member," Eden replied with a faint, polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yet here we are." Mila bristled. "I'm his wife, and the chief creative officer." "Creative officer," Eden repeated, letting the title hang in the air like a bad smell. She turned back to Leo. "I have seen enough. Your infrastructure is unstable, your leadership is distracted, and your capital is drying up. Orchid Holdings will maintain the contract for now, but on a month-to-month basis, prepaid." "Prepaid?" Leo sputtered. "That will cripple our cash flow." "Then fix the code," Eden said, walking past him. As she passed the young engineer, she dropped a folded piece of paper on his desk. It wasn't a note, it was a line of command syntax, the patch for the memory leak she had written in her head years ago. "Holden," she whispered into the mic as she entered the elevator. "Short the stock. He's going to miss his quarterly target." "Way ahead of you, boss," Holden's voice purred. "And Eden? Nice work with the distracted comment. His blood pressure just spiked on the biometric sensors we tapped." Eden leaned back against the elevator wall. She felt a strange vibration in her chest. It wasn't fear anymore. It was the thrill of the hunt. The annual Seattle Tech Innovators Gala was the kind of event where net worth was measured in billions and morality was checked at the coat check. The ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic Hotel was draped in gold and velvet, filled with the hum of gossip and clinking champagne flutes. Eden stood at the top of the grand staircase, her hand resting lightly on Holden York's arm. "Breathe," Holden murmured. He looked devastating in a midnight blue tuxedo, his dark hair swept back. You look like a queen coming to execute her subjects. Eden smoothed the fabric of her gown. It was a custom emerald green silk dress, backless and severe, hugging her new, sharper frame like a second skin. Around her neck hung a necklace of raw, uncut diamonds, a loan from the Hale private vault. I feel like an imposter, she admitted quietly. You're not, Holden said, turning to look at her. His eyes were intense, stripping away the Elena Vane mask for a fleeting second. You're the smartest person in this room, and tonight, you're the most dangerous. Let's go. They descended the stairs. Heads turned. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Who is she? Is that Holden York? I thought Hale Dynamics never left New York. Leo and Myla were holding court near the ice sculpture. Myla was wearing a white dress that looked suspiciously bridal, dripping in sequins. Leo looked haggard, despite the expensive tan. The rumors of Grant Tech's cash flow problems were starting to circulate. When Leo saw Eden, he choked on his drink. He abandoned Myla mid-sentence and rushed over. Elena, I didn't know you were in town. His eyes darted to Holden. And, Mr. York, I'm honored. I didn't realize Orchid Holdings was a Hale subsidiary. It's not, Holden lied smoothly. Elena and I are old friends. She tells me you run a fascinating operation, Mr. Grant. The best, Leo said, puffing out his chest. We're revolutionizing the industry. Is that why your stock is down 8 points this week? A sharp voice cut in. Eliza Vaughan stepped out from the crowd, clad in severe black lace. She looked like a vulture waiting for a carcass. She stared at Eden, her eyes narrowing behind her spectacles. Mother, Leo warned, this is Elena Vane. Vane, Eliza repeated, rolling the name around her mouth. She stepped closer to Eden, invading her personal space. You have a very familiar bone structure, Miss Vane. Have we met? Eden's heart hammered, but she didn't flinch. She channeled Holden's cold arrogance. I doubt it, Mrs. Vaughan. I spent most of my career in Singapore and London. I don't frequent regional social circles. Eliza stiffened at the insult. Regional? The Grants are a founding family of this city, and dinosaurs once ruled the earth, Eden said calmly. Adaptation is painful, isn't it? Myla, sensing the tension and hating that she wasn't the center of it, pushed her way into the circle. Leo, they're starting the charity auction. You promised to buy me the vintage Porsche. Not now, Myla, Leo hissed. But you promised. Myla's voice rose to a shrill whine. You said since we couldn't go to the Maldives because of work stuff, I could have the car. The nearby circle of investors fell silent. Leo's face turned a mottled red. He was trying to project strength and stability, and his wife was publicly discussing his cancelled vacations and financial bargaining. Eden seized the moment. A vintage Porsche? A lovely investment. Though I hear liquid assets are king right now, perhaps you should save your capital for infrastructure repairs. Leo looked trapped. If he didn't bid, he looked broke. If he did bid, he was burning cash he didn't have. The auction began. The Porsche 911 Speedster came up. 100,000. Leo bid, sweating. 200, Eden said, not even looking at the stage. She sipped her champagne. 250, Leo croaked. 500,000, Eden countered instantly. The room gasped. Myla tugged on Leo's arm. Leo, do something. I can't, Leo whispered, humiliated. We don't have the liquidity. Sold to the lady in green for $500,000, the auctioneer boomed. Eden turned to Myla. It's a manual transmission, dear. You wouldn't have known how to drive it anyway. She handed the paddle to a stunned waiter. Put it on the corporate card. Donate the car to the local engineering college for parts. I prefer walking. She walked away, Holden at her side. He was suppressing a laugh. That was entirely unnecessary and absolutely magnificent. Later that night on the balcony, Eden found herself alone for a moment. The cool air soothed her flushed skin. "You're enjoying this," a voice said. She turned. It was Leo. He looked broken. The veneer of the golden boy was cracking. "Business is a sport, Leo," she said. He moved closer, invading her space. The smell of scotch was heavy on his breath. "You know, you're not like the other women I meet. You're tough. I like that. Mila, she's a child. She doesn't understand the pressure I'm under." Eden felt a wave of revulsion. He was doing it again. The same move he had pulled on her when he left his college girlfriend for Eden. The "my current partner doesn't understand me, but you do" routine. "Are you hitting on me, Mr. Grant, at a charity gala, with your wife inside?" "I'm talking about a partnership," Leo said, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. He reached out, his hand grazing her arm. "We could be formidable. Orchid and Grant Tech. Merged." Eden looked at his hand on her arm. She remembered how that hand had thrown her clothes into boxes. She remembered how it had signed the divorce papers without shaking. She didn't pull away. She leaned in, her lips inches from his ear. "If you want a partnership, Leo, you have to bring something to the table. Right now, all you have is debt and a wife who spends it faster than you can borrow it. Prove to me you're worth saving." "How?" Leo asked, desperate. "Give me full access," she whispered. "To the black box data, the real numbers, not what you show the IRS. If the tech is as good as you say, I'll buy you out. I'll save you." Leo hesitated. The black box contained everything: the stolen code, the offshore shell companies, the falsified projected earnings. I can't show you that. It's too risky." "Then sink," Eden said, pulling back. "Enjoy the gala, Leo. It might be your last." She walked back inside, leaving him standing in the dark. She caught Holden's eye across the room and nodded. The hook was set. The fallout from the gala was immediate. The tabloids ran with the headline, "Mystery CEO outshines the Grants, trouble in paradise." Photos of Leo arguing with Mila in the lobby were plastered everywhere, but inside the Grant Tech Tower, the real damage was being done. Leo, terrified by Eden's threat and the plummeting stock price, made the fatal mistake. He called Elena Vane 3 days later. "I'll do it," he said, his voice ragged. "I'll give you read-only access to the black box server. But you have to sign an NDA that would bury you if you leak a single byte." "Send it over," Eden said, sitting in her office at Hale Dynamics. 10 minutes later, the credentials arrived. Eden didn't open them alone. She sat in the war room with Holden and a team of forensic accountants. "Read only," Holden scoffed, cracking his knuckles. "That's adorable. He thinks read only stops us?" "He forgot who built the system," Eden said softly. "I left a backdoor in the admin hierarchy. It was labeled guest user in the metadata. He never scrubbed it because he never looked at the code himself." She typed in a string of commands. The screen flooded with data. It was worse than she imagined. "Look at this," Holden said, pointing to a column of transfers. "He's not just cooking the books, he's incinerating them. He's taking pre-orders for the AI logistics units, booking the revenue immediately to inflate the quarterly report, and then funneling the cash into a shell company in the Caymans called LFG Ventures." "Leo Ford Grant," Eden deciphered. "He's stealing from his own company to pay for his lifestyle." "And here," Eden pointed to the IP logs. "The timestamp on the core algorithm, it's dated 3 years ago. The author tag, he tried to overwrite it, but the version history is immutable on the backup server." Author, E. Laurent. "He didn't write a single line of the new platform," Eden said, her voice shaking with rage. "He's just reskinning my old work and selling it as a breakthrough." "This is fraud," Holden said. "Grand larceny, securities fraud, IP theft. If we release this, he doesn't just go bankrupt. He goes to federal prison." Eden stared at the screen. This was it. The smoking gun. She could end it right now. She could leak this to the SEC and watch the feds raid his office within the hour. "No," Eden said. Holden looked at her. "No, Eden, this is the kill shot." "It's too quick," she said. "If he goes to jail now, he becomes a martyr. He'll spin it. He'll say he was sabotaged. Mila will play the grieving wife. Eliza will hire the best lawyers and get him out in 2 years. So what do you want?" "I want him to give it to me," Eden said. "I want him to sign it over. I want him to stand in that office and hand me the keys, knowing he lost. I want to take his name off the building while he watches." "That's risky," Holden warned. "If he finds out who you are before he signs." "He won't," Eden said, "because we're going to offer him a lifeline. We're going to offer to buy LFG Ventures." Holden smiled. "Buy the shell company where he hid the stolen money? That implicates us." "Not if we buy the assets," Eden corrected. "We offer to acquire the IP rights held by LFG. He thinks he's selling us the stolen code for a fortune, washing his hands of the crime. But the contract will have a clause." She pulled up a draft document she had been working on. Clause 14B. Seller warrants full original authorship of all intellectual property. In the event of proven plagiarism or prior ownership claims, seller assumes full personal liability for all corporate debts of Grant Tech and forfeits all equity. "He'll never sign that," Holden said. "It's a suicide pact." "He will," Eden said, her eyes cold, "because tomorrow I'm going to crash his system." The next morning, the glitch Eden had identified during the tour went live. She didn't trigger it, she simply stopped the server from auto-correcting it, a safety net she had installed years ago. At 9 a.m., Grant Tech's logistics network froze. Ships stopped in harbors, automated warehouses locked down, drones hovered in place until their batteries died. By 10:00 a.m., Grant Tech was losing $1 million a minute. Clients were screaming. The stock was in freefall. Leo called Elena Vane at 10:15 a.m. "Elena, help me!" he screamed into the phone. "The system is down. I need cash. I need technical support. I heard," Eden said calmly, sipping her tea. "It sounds like a catastrophe, Leo. My team estimates you'll be insolvent by noon tomorrow." I can fix it. I just need time." "You don't have time, but I have a solution. Orchid Holdings will buy the IP rights immediately. We'll inject $50 million into the company today to stabilize the servers, but you sell us the code right now." $50 million? Leo hesitated. It was a lowball offer, insulting even, but his screen showed red lines everywhere. "Take it or leave it, Leo. I have a meeting with Kincaid in 5 minutes." "I'll take it," Leo yelled. "Send the lawyers." "No lawyers," Eden said. "Just you and me. Come to my office. 100 Wall Street, top floor." "Wall Street? I thought your office was—" "I'm in New York today, Leo. Get on a jet. If you're here by 4 p.m., I save your life." She hung up. Eden turned to Grayson Hale, who had been watching from his wheelchair in the corner. "He's coming," she said. Grayson nodded slowly. "Are you ready to tell him the truth?" "Not yet," Eden said. "Let him sign the papers first. Let him think he's won. The fall is always harder when you think you're flying." She walked to the window, looking out at the skyline. The storm had arrived, and Leo Grant was flying straight into the eye of it. The private elevator to the penthouse of 100 Wall Street moved with a silence that unnerved Leo Grant. He checked his reflection in the polished brass doors. His suit was rumpled from the rushed flight, his eyes bloodshot. He had spent the 5-hour journey drinking vodka tonics and staring at the red line on his tablet that marked the death spiral of his company. When the doors slid open, he stepped into the cavernous office of Hale Dynamics. It was a space designed to intimidate, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor, walls lined with first-edition books, and a temperature kept deliberately cool. At the far end of the room, seated behind a desk made of a single slab of obsidian, was Elena Vane. To her right sat Holden York, looking like a gargoyle in a suit. To her left, an older man in a wheelchair watched Leo with terrifying stillness. "You made good time, Leo," Elena said, not standing up. "Please, sit." Leo collapsed into the leather chair opposite her. "The papers. Where are they? I need the transfer initiated before the Asian markets open." Holden slid a thick document across the black desk. Standard Acquisition Agreement. Orchid Holdings acquires all intellectual property rights to the Grant Logistics Protocol, currently held by your shell company, LFG Ventures. In exchange, we provide a $50 million liquidity injection into Grant Tech and assume control of the back-end architecture. Leo grabbed the pen. His hands were shaking. $50 million was a fraction of what the company was worth on paper a week ago, but right now it was the difference between a lifestyle and a jail cell. "And the NDA?" Leo asked, his voice tight. "No one knows about LFG Ventures." "Strictly confidential," Elena said. Her voice was devoid of emotion. "As long as you sign." Leo flipped to the back page. He didn't read the clauses. He didn't check the warranties. He just saw the wire transfer confirmation code waiting for a signature. Greed and fear, the two most blinding forces in human nature, guided his hand. He signed. The moment the ink hit the paper, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The air grew heavier. "Done," Leo exhaled, dropping the pen. "Now, authorize the transfer." "The transfer is authorized," Holden said, picking up the document and checking the signature. "But there is one small administrative detail." "What?" Leo snapped. "The Clause 14B warranty," Elena said. She stood up slowly. "You warranted that you are the sole author of the code, that you didn't steal it." Of course I did. It's my company," Leo blustered. "Why does this matter?" Elena reached up. Slowly, deliberately, she unpinned the severe chignon of her hair, letting the dark waves fall around her face. She took a wet wipe from her drawer and scrubbed the dark, vampy lipstick from her mouth, revealing her natural, softer lip shape. She looked up at him. The predator, Elena, was gone. Standing there with sad, furious eyes was the woman he had discarded. "Because, Leo," she said, her voice dropping the affectation, returning to the soft cadence he knew so well. "You didn't write the code. I did." Leo froze. He stared at her. His brain struggled to reconcile the image, the sharp, terrifying CEO of Orchid Holdings and the wife he had thrown out in the rain. "Eden," he whispered. The word came out like a strangled gasp. "No, that's impossible. You're broke. You're nobody." "I was," Eden said, walking around the desk, "until I remembered who my family was." She gestured to the man in the wheelchair. "Leo, meet Grayson Hale, my great-uncle." Leo turned to the old man. Grayson smiled, cold and sharp. "You called my niece trash, Mr. Grant. I believe that was the term." Leo stood up, backing away. This is entrapment. Fraud. I'll sue you." "Sue us with what?" Holden asked, tapping the contract. "You just signed a confession. Clause 14B states that if the IP is proven to be stolen, the seller, that's you, forfeits all equity in Grant Tech to cover the liability." "I didn't steal it," Leo screamed. Eden picked up a remote and clicked a button. A monitor on the wall flared to life. It showed a terminal command line. 3 years ago," Eden said, "when I wrote the core kernel, I embedded a signature in the hex code. It spells out a name. Do you want to see it?" She typed a command. The code scrolled and highlighted a sequence. EDEN. "You signed a contract admitting fraud," Eden said, stepping closer to him. "Grant Tech belongs to Hale Dynamics now. Specifically, it belongs to me." Leo looked from Eden to the contract, then to the window. The reality crashed down on him. He hadn't just sold his company. He had handed his executioner the axe. "Eden, please," he stammered, his charm booting up in a panic mode. "Baby, listen, we can fix this. I missed you. Mila, she means nothing." She's just a distraction. You and I, we were the team. We built this. Eden looked at him with profound pity. We didn't build it, Leo. I built it. You just put your name on the door. She pressed a button on the intercom. Security. Escort Mr. Grant out. And ensure he doesn't take the pen. It's a Mont Blanc. The collapse of Leo Grant's life was not a slow burn. It was a demolition. By the time Leo landed back in Seattle, the press release had already gone out via Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal. Hale Dynamics acquires Grant Tech. Founder Leo Grant ousted amid fraud allegations. Leo's phone was vibrating so hard in his pocket it felt like a second heartbeat. He ignored the calls from his lawyers, his mother, and his creditors. He just wanted to get home, to the sanctuary of his penthouse, but when his biometric key scanned the front door of the penthouse, the light flashed red. Access denied. What? Leo kicked the door. Open? The door opened, but it wasn't the lock releasing. It was the housekeeper, Maria, looking apologetic. Behind her stood two large men in suits. I'm sorry, Mr. Grant, Maria said. Mrs. Grant, I mean Ms. Ford. She is leaving. Leo pushed past her. The penthouse was in chaos. Suitcases were everywhere. Mila was frantically shoving designer clothes, jewelry, and even the silverware into Louis Vuitton duffels. Mila, what are you doing? Leo shouted. Mila spun around. She wasn't crying. She was furious. She held up her phone, displaying the stock ticker. Grant Tech was suspended from trading. You're broke! She screamed. I checked the joint account. Frozen. My credit cards? Declined at Neiman Marcus. You told me you were a billionaire, you liar. It's a mistake. A hostile takeover, Leo pleaded, grabbing her arm. I'm going to fix it. I just need you to stand by me. We're partners, remember? Mila laughed, pulling her arm away. Partners? Leo, I married a CEO, not a defendant. My lawyer says if I divorce you now, I might be able to keep the jewelry before the feds seize it. She zipped up the bag. I'm going to my mother's. Don't call me. She signaled to the movers she had hired. They marched out, carrying the last remnants of Leo's luxury life. He stood in the empty foyer, the echo of the slamming door ringing in his ears. Well, a dry voice said from the doorway, this is a spectacle. Eliza Vaughn walked in, stepping over a discarded hanger. She looked at her son with disdain. Mother, Leo choked out, you have to help me. Call the family trust. I need a bridge loan. The trust? Eliza raised an eyebrow. The trust is for the preservation of the Vaughn legacy. You, Leonardo, have just incinerated that legacy. I warned you. Warned me? I told you that girl, Eden, was dangerous, Eliza lied, rewriting history. I told you she was too smart for you, but you had to have the model. You had to have the fame. You told me to get rid of her, Leo shouted. You said she was a librarian. And clearly I underestimated her reading list, Eliza snapped. I've spoken to the board. They are distancing themselves from you. I suggest you do what the lawyers say. Plead insanity or incompetence. You're good at the latter. As she turned to leave. Oh, and Leo, you can't stay here. The penthouse is owned by the company, and the company is owned by her. Eviction notice is in the mail. Leo sank to the floor. The marble was cold. The silence was absolute. He was the king of Seattle yesterday. Today he was a trespasser in his own home. 3 days later, Eden Laurent walked into the lobby of Grant Tech. She didn't sneak in. She didn't use a side door. She walked through the main revolving doors, flanked by Holden York and a team of auditors. The lobby was silent. The receptionist, who used to sneer at Eden when she brought Leo lunch, went pale. Good morning, Eden said pleasantly. Please gather the senior staff in the atrium. 10 minutes. Eden took the elevator to the 45th floor. She walked into Leo's office, her office now. It still smelled of his cologne. She walked to the window and opened it, letting the fresh, rain-washed air clear the stench of ego. It's a good view, Holden noted, standing beside her. It's better when you own the ground beneath it. Eden replied. She sat in the chair. It was too big, designed for a man who needed to feel large. "Replace this," she told her assistant. "Get an Aeron chair, something functional." She went down to the atrium. 300 employees were gathered, whispering nervously. They expected mass firings. They expected the Hale Dynamics axe. Eden stood on the raised platform. She didn't use a microphone. Her voice projected clearly in the hush. "My name is Eden Laurent," she began. "Some of you know me as Leo's ex-wife. Some of you know me as the chip lady, but most of you know my work." She pointed to the massive server display, which was still dark from the crash. "I wrote the kernel that runs this building. I wrote the code that pays your salaries. For the last 3 years, this company has been run on marketing and lies. That ends today." She pulled a tablet from her bag and tapped a single command. Behind her, the massive screen flickered. The red error bars vanished. The map of the world lit up in cool, stable blue. The hum of the servers returning to full power vibrated through the floor. "The glitch is fixed," Eden said, "because I removed the Leo patch that was throttling the data." A murmur went through the crowd. The engineers nodded at each other. They knew code. They knew that fix was instant. "There will be changes," Eden continued. "The marketing budget is being cut by 80%. That money is going into R&D and employee bonuses. If you are here to work, you have a future. If you are here to pose, there is the door." Applause started slowly, from the engineers first, then the support staff, until the whole room was clapping. It wasn't polite applause, it was relief. The tyrant was gone. The architect had returned. As the meeting dispersed, Holden tapped Eden on the shoulder. "You have a visitor in the parking lot." Security stopped him. Eden went outside. The rain had started again, a classic Seattle drizzle. Leo was standing by the security gate. He was wearing jeans and a hoodie, holding a wet cardboard box. His Tesla had been repossessed. He was waiting for an Uber. He looked up when he saw her. He looked 10 years older. "Eden," he said. His voice was cracked. "Leo," she replied. She stood under the umbrella Holden held for her, warm and dry. I have nowhere to go," Leo said. "Eliza cut me off. Mila took everything that wasn't bolted down. I have $1,200. Eden paused. The number rang a bell. $1,200. Exactly what she had when he threw her out. "It's a hard amount to start over with," Eden said. "But it's possible. Can you help me?" Leo asked, tears mixing with the rain on his face. "Just a loan, for old time's sake. I was your husband." Eden looked at him. She felt for the anger, the rage that had fueled her for months. It was gone. All that was left was indifference. "I can't give you money, Leo. That would be enabling. But I can give you something you left me." She reached into the bag Holden was carrying and pulled out a folded piece of fabric. It was the Hermes throw blanket, the one he had screamed at her not to touch. "You love this blanket," she said, handing it to him. "It's warm. You'll need it." Leo took the blanket. He stared at it, the symbol of his pettiness, now his only comfort. "Goodbye, Leo," Eden said. She turned around and walked back toward the glowing tower of glass and steel. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. The past was behind her, shivering in the rain. The future was waiting inside, and she had a lot of work to do. Eden stood in the elevator, watching the numbers climb. 43. 44. 45. "You know," Holden said, "Grayson is going to want you in New York eventually. The Empire needs an heir." "I know," Eden smiled, watching the city spread out below her. "But for now, I like the view from here." She had walked through the fire and come out not as ash, but as diamond. She had learned that kindness without strength is just permission to be used, but strength without kindness is just tyranny. She would be neither the doormat nor the monster. She would be the boss. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Eden Laurent stepped out into her empire. Eden didn't just get revenge, she got justice. She proved that while you can steal someone's work, you can never steal their genius. Leo learned the hard way that when you discard a diamond because you're dazzled by glitter, you end up with nothing but dust. Would you have given him the blanket, or would you have left him in the cold? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of karma and comeback, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that the best revenge is massive success. Thanks for watching.